In 1925, a single house on Detroit's east side became the center of one of the most important civil rights trials in American history. The story you are about to hear is true. The names, places, and the events are real.
The case came to be known as the Sweet's trials. The defendant was Dr. Ossian Sweet, 30 years old, African-American physician. Sweet was born on October 30th, 1895 in Orlando, Florida. His parents were tenant farmers. By 14, he had already begun an academic path that would lead him to Howard University College of Medicine. He trained further in Vienna and Paris. In France, he studied under some of the most respected scientists of the era, including Marie Curie. By 1922, Sweet was practicing medicine in Detroit. By 1924, he was working in Dunbar Hospital, Detroit's first black hospital. He was educated, licensed, employed, married. You'd think a man like Sweet, educated, respected, accomplished, wouldn't have had trouble buying a decent home. Yeah, that would make sense. But you'd be wrong. This was segregated Detroit, where race counted more than credentials. Most African Americans were confined to the neighborhood known as Black Bottom. That's where the city expected them to live and stay. Sweet and his wife Gladys looked elsewhere. Realtors refused to return calls. Sellers refused to negotiate. Eventually, they found a bungalow at 2905 Garland Street on Detroit's east side. Working-class neighborhood, modest homes, two-family flats. The house wasn't remarkable. What it represented was. Sweet understood the risk. He bought the house anyway.
This is African American History is American History.
The NAACP had just revived in Detroit after 2 years of inactivity. Backing down would have meant more than losing a house. On June 7, 1925, the Sweets paid $18,500, $6,000 above market value. The sellers accepted. The Sweets moved in on September 8, 1925. The following night, the neighborhood reacted. A crowd gathered outside the house. They said they were protecting property values. They said they were defending their block. Sweet anticipated trouble. He invited 9 black men, friends and relatives, to stay with him. They came to watch the house. They came to make sure Sweet wasn't alone. The crowd grew. Stones hit the windows. Then gunfire. Shots came from the direction of the house. One white man was wounded. Another fell in the street and died. To this day, it's unclear where the fatal shot came from. From inside the house, from the crowd, from a police officer caught in the confusion. The uncertainty didn't slow the arrests. Dr. Ossian Sweet was taken into custody. So was his wife. So were the men who stood with him. All were charged with murder. When word reached James Weldon Johnson, General Secretary of the NAACP, he understood the stakes. This wasn't about one shot. It was about whether a black family had the right to defend themselves inside their own home. Johnson contacted Clarence Darrow. Darrow had just come off the Scopes trial. He was well known, he was controversial, and he was hungry for another high-profile courtroom battle to end a long, illustrious career. 2 trials followed, one in 1925, another in 1926. The jury was all white. Darrow argued self-defense. He argued fear. He argued the law as it existed. The verdict came back. Not guilty. The acquittal did not end the consequences. Dr. Sweet lived in the Garland Street house for 16 years. He remained a successful physician. Both his wife and daughter contracted tuberculosis during Gladys's incarceration. Neither survived. Sweet continued on until he didn't. On March 20th, 1960, at the age of 64, Dr. Ossian Sweet took his own life. The house at 2905 Garland Street still stands. It was designated a Michigan State Historic Site in 1975. It was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1985.
This is African American History is American History.
No court ruling can measure what justice costs. This case proved that a black man had the legal right to defend his home. It did not protect him from what came after. The history of racism in America shows up this way. Not always in laws, not always in verdicts, but in the consequences that follow long after the case is closed. Progress has often come that way, case by case, house by house, at a price paid by people history rarely checks back on. Dr. Ossian Sweet paid his. This has been African American History is American History. I'm Harlan Kearsley. Thank you for listening. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe. Once you do, you'll be notified as soon as new episodes are posted. Thanks again, and please stay safe. African American History is American History. Copyright H.C. Kearsley, 2026.